everyone, we are the group 9 of BSMT 1B and we are going to answer the question under why risk assessment. But before that, let me define first again what is risk assessment. So, risk assessment is a term used to describe the process or method where we can able to identify the hazard or risk factors that can harm people and the environment. It also helps us to analyze and evaluate the risk associated with that hazard by conducting risk analysis and risk evaluation. It helps us to determine the actions or the associated way in order to eliminate that hazard or to control the risk of that hazard that cannot be eliminated. So that is it for the definition of risk assessment. So let us now proceed to answer the question under why risk assessment.
So why is it important to conduct a risk assessment prior to implementing mitigation controls? So it is important to reduce or eliminate the risk associated with biological agents or toxins. There are 5 areas of controls or measures that can be employed in mitigating risk. These are elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and the personal protective equipment or the PPE. The effectivity of mitigating the risk relies on the combination of all the measures and the proper utilization of each. So, the concept of these hierarchy controls describes the order of effectiveness from the most effective to the least effective mitigation measures and implies that this order should be taken into account when selecting or implementing controls to reduce risk.
Number 2. What outcomes would you expect when mitigation is based on a thorough risk assessment? So if mitigation is based on a proper manner of risk assessment, there won't be any problem in the future because all of the hazards and risk factors are being identified and you can decide what are the measures to do effectively remove the things that can cause harm.
In order to have successful conduction, or if you have to fix a problem and build an effective solution to avoid things to happen, you need to know what are the problems first for you to identify what are the things that needs attention and observations. Just like conducting a mitigation without the proper way of risk assessment can still be the reason of a problem. Without risk assessment, you might miss a hazard or risk that has the potential to cause harm to others. Mitigation means prevention or to reduce the capability of danger, to prevent bad things from happening in the community or to oneself.
First, you have the hazard and operability analysis, or known as HAZOP. So why it is called HAZOP? It is called HAZOP because they combine the word hazard and operability to come up with the word HAZOP. So HAZOP is a structured and systematic technique for system examination and risk management. And it is often used as a technique for identifying potential hazards in a system and identifying operability problems likely to lead to non-conforming products. So, also HAZOP is a well-known and well-documented study. HAZOP is a part of quantitative risk assessment, QRA, or as a stand-alone analysis. So HAZOP is more detailed review technique than HAZID. So the purpose of HAZOP is to investigate how the system or plan deviate from the design intent and create risk for personnel and equipment and operability problems. HAZOP studies have been used with a great success within chemical and petroleum industry to obtain safer and more efficient and more reliable plants. HAZOP has become a standard method in the design of process systems in the norms.
Next is the hazard and operability analysis or HAZOP guide words. These are the examples of HAZOP guide words. First is no or not, second is more, next is less, as well as part of, other than, early, late, before, and the last is after. A no or not, complete negation of the intention from the design. Next is more, quantitative increase in whatever is being identified. Next is less, quantitative decrease in whatever is being identified. Next is as well as qualitative modification or a qualitative increase. Next is part of, qualitative modification or decrease. Next is other than, complete substitution. Next, early, something occurred earlier than intended or clock time. Next is late, something occurred later than intended or clock time. Next is before, step was performed before it should have in the process sequence. And the last is after, step was performed after it should have in the process sequence. The HAZOP guide words are then applied to each of the elements. HAZOP guide words work by providing a systematic and consistent means of brainstorming potential deviation to operation.
Okay, hazard and operability analysis or HAZOP. It is a structured and systematic technique for system examination and risk management. It is often used as a technique for identifying potential hazard in a system and identifying operability problems likely to lead non-conforming products. So, HAZOP is a process to identify and assess risk. It identifies risk through a creative and collaborative process done based on the collective knowledge of multidisciplinary team with the facilitator to guide the team to achieve high quality design. So the idea of HAZOP is you can create hazard by choosing a structured brainstorming technique. And the brainstorming method works by first looking for each requirement of the system and modify it with a guide word and asking, does the result suggest a hazard? So, by the way, as you can see, we already given you the image of the example of the guide words in our PPT, so please look at it or look closer. So, for example, we listed a guide word such as no or not, more or less, or as well as that corresponds to the meaning of qualitative modification, increase or decrease. So the idea of it is to take the requirement and modify it with the guide word and come up with an opposite requirement to suggest a particular hazard. So HAZOP is effective starting point but not guaranteed to find all hazard. So when you are already done with HAZOP, which you have is a listed hazard that opposite of or modification of or somehow related to violating the requirement that makes a system safe. So when you already have it, the listed hazard, then you have to decide what to do better. Okay, next is hazard analysis and critical control points or HAZOP. It is a systematic preventive approach to the food safety from biological such as salmonella, vibrio or toxins, chemicals such as pesticide and lubricants, physical such as glass, stone, and plastic hazards in production to be unsafe and design measurements to reduce the risk to a safe level. So HAZOP is an internationally recognized system for reducing risk of safety hazard in food. So hazard analysis is a investigation of the hazard, the danger to our health. And critical control point is a point or step or procedure which control that could be applied and the food safety hazard can be avoided or eliminated to the acceptable level, or we call the safe level. So, HACCP applies to the entire food chain from production, manufacturing, distribution, and retailing food for consumption. So, HACCP is important? Yes, it is. It is important to prevent foodborne illness, but also to reduce recalls, and the company can save monies. In addition, HACCP was developed in late 1950 by NASA. They built Food Safety for Manned Space Program, and 1974 FDA incorporated HACCP in the regulation due to the outbreaks of Clostridium botulinum in a canned food. In 1993, Codex Alimentarius, the first international definition for HACCP. And in 2000, ISO 22000 developed with major contribution to the food safety management system. So that's the end of our discussion, and we hope you learned something from our topic for today. By the way, we are the Group 9, and thank you for listening.